Cristina, how did you find carnivore?
Okay, so I have had a lot of allergies, and back in 2010, I became allergic to gluten, dairy, soy, peanuts, and corn. And so that has been a very complicated, it's not really complicated. I think for other people, it was complicated. They were like, "What do you eat?" It was always like a big topic. And I was like, whole foods, the things you're supposed to eat. And so what happened in 2022, I mean, I was like, very cautious of everything, making sure I didn't get contaminated with gluten, any cross contamination. And then in 2022, I went to Orlando for a convention. And while I was there, I believed I'd gotten cross contaminated. I didn't feel stressed out. I didn't feel like anything set off any kind of cascade. I just started swelling and having extreme pain. And so I just had to squeeze into the clothes because I was swelling like a lot and go through the motions and be at the convention and go to dinners and all that stuff. But I was really sick. And when I came home, it didn't go away. So when I got home, I still was dealing with reactions to every single thing that I ate. And I had a really good friend in California and we're like in the coaching world. So he reached out and said, "You're allergic to like almost everything. And you should probably look into Michaela Peterson and her story because I think that you'll see similarities and you may learn something." And I was like, "Meat all the time? That sounds terrible. That probably sounds dangerous." And I was like, "Salt and fat? What are you talking about?" And he's like, just go check it out. You can decide for yourself." So I was so sick that I literally couldn't leave the house. I couldn't do very many things because it was just affecting every area of my life. And he had known, and this was like about 7 months after I got sick, that I was still dealing with every single time I ate, I had some kind of reaction. And I just went and looked up Michaela Peterson on Joe Rogan. I watched the video, and I think it was like 26 minutes. And I went to bed and I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm going to look up every single thing that I can find out about carnivore, and I'm going to find experts. I'm going to find doctors. I'm going to find people who are actually speaking the truth about it versus what we've been told our whole lives and believed. So I spent 60 hours that week just on YouTube, really looking for answers and trying to figure out if this was safe, how to do it properly, how to not get so sick on it. So I told my husband I was going to do carnivore, and he thought that was a dumb idea. And so he was like, "Okay, that sounds dangerous." And I was like, "Look, it seems like it's hypoallergenic and it's anti-inflammatory. So I think if I can make it the 21 days, which is the one thing I held on to the entire transition, was it takes 21 days to transition fuel sources. I'm going to probably feel like, I've got a healing crisis and I've got a detox and I've got all these things going." But I was really sick. So I was like in it to win it. And I told him, I was like, "This is my opportunity to try something different that is not mainstream and it may help me." And so as it went on, I got my electrolytes, I got all the things. And then I told him, "I'm going to start." And he was like, "Look, you got to take care of all the animals. You got to do this and this and this." And I was like, "Yep." So I started and I got so sick that I could hardly hold my head up. I even had to walk the dogs and I wasn't even standing up straight. I was so weak and just so fatigued. And I just told him, and he was like, "I don't think you're going to make it through this. I think you might die." He goes, "You look really bad." And I just told him, I was like, "I just have to make it 21 days. I've done the work. I have prepared and I just have to wait it out." And so he was like, "Are you sure you're not doing something wrong?" And I was like, "No." I said, "I am a sugar burner and I have been eating all these things that I thought were healthy, like veggie straws and chia seed pudding, all the things and lots of vegetables." And so the 18th day is when everything started to shift. By midday, I was holding my head up. I had thoughts. I was energetic. I didn't have any more like exhaustion and fatigue. And I was like, "This is exciting. This is the day I've been waiting for." And I just kept going. So I like really put a lot of stock in what Dr. Ken Berry said and what Dr. Kilt said and what Dr. Ovadia said and Sally Norton and all these people that talked about, how this is the best way to eat if you're trying to heal your health. So the other thing I didn't realize was oxalates. So I didn't realize that that was a thing. And I am going to be a 3-year carnivore on April 14th, 2026. And so I've gone through all kinds of oxalate dumping, and that is a thing. But I also am so excited that I can eat this food and feel my best and fuel my body. Most of the time I'm running on ketones, not all the time. But, I actually, looked into hiring a doctor in the carnivore space, and I did to at the very beginning, like about 3 months in, so that I could really get some help because I didn't know what was going on. And come to find out, I've had thyroid issues and adrenal issues for years, but they were masked because I kept doing diets. I kept thinking that, the perfect diet was going to be there, and I was going to like drop all the weight, and I was going to feel amazing. I was going to fit all my clothes. And so I chased that for many, many, many years. And it just was interesting that once I came into the carnivore space, that so many answers came, and so much, so much clarity came when I found carnivore. And I found, Rebecca Heichman, and I actually hired her as a coach for 3 months. And I was coaching myself a lot because we went to the same school, but she just got on there and she would just let me go on and on. But I was actually in Mexico with my dad he needed cancer treatment. So we were down there, and I was still doing my coaching with her. And I'm sitting on this little balcony in Tijuana, and I'm talking to her, and we were talking about how like everything went sideways back in 2023. I went carnivore, and then I put my dad on carnivore, and then the whole family decided that I was crazy and I was trying to kill him. And so a lot of things happened, a lot of things were said. And so my nervous system couldn't handle one more thing. So I really started eating like, the seed oil protein bars. And I didn't know why I was craving that or why that was happening. But as it went on, it was my adrenals were crashing. And then I gained a lot of weight in a very short period of time. And so that's when I hired her, and I was like, I need to heal all of this stuff, and so she said like 2 sentences to me at the near the very end of our coaching. And I'm in Tijuana and I'm talking to her, and she's like, look, because this is, when you eat things off carnivore, it's partially your body and the response that it has to the stress that you're under, but it's also partially a choice. You can decide to refrain from that. But at that point, I was under so much stress from family and all that, that I had just like gone off the rails, and I had just fallen off the wall. And so she said to me, she goes, you can change this today. You can change it in 3 months, or you can change it in 3 months, in 3 years. And when she said that to me, I was like, wow, that's insane. So the fact that I could make a U-turn, even though I was having all the cravings and I was sick and I was, very, very stressed out. And when I came, while we were there in Mexico, I found burger patties I could eat. I mean, I was pretty much back on track at that point, and which is a funny thing to say. But yeah, I dropped the weight back off pretty quickly when I just got focused on my health and my boundaries, and really just decided that this is my life, and people can decide, they don't want to talk to me, or that I'm, a bad person or whatever. But like, I had to protect myself and set some boundaries and really just focus on healing. And I got, like I said, I was back in the States, and I was, like, I think I was eating too much protein at that time, but my body was just so hungry. So yeah, when I got back, I just really set some boundaries in my life, and I really just took a step back and stayed home and started really focusing on the things that were important to me, which is so important for, like women in midlife, which is, I'm 52, and I have really changed. Well, I've turned a corner, I would say, in how I view the world and how I view food, because people mostly use food to cope or to deal with stress in their life, and they don't think about the nutritional impact that it has, and how fueling your body with the right foods can actually help your body, like work properly and do what it's supposed to do. So I feel like for me, it was just the process of realizing that I had let all these things get in my way and block my view of what I needed. And so I was so distracted by all the things that, I wasn't really taking care of myself. But I have really decided that, water with some salt or electrolytes in it, burger patties, and I make homemade ghee and I eat some egg yolks. I do drink decaf coffee in the morning, but like with lots of butter in it. But it's like you decide how simple you make your carnivore journey and how complicated you make it. So I used to eat ribeyes in the beginning so I could heal. And then I just got to where there's one brand of burger patties that I can eat that doesn't bother me. And that's my go to. So I just keep it really simple and I feel better when I just eat burger patties and some ghee and some salt and egg yolks and decaf coffee. So,
Wow. And so over time, what has improved for you? Like the allergies are completely gone?
so I still have some of the allergies. They have improved tremendously, but I had leaky gut, and that's not an issue. I mean, unless I don't cross contaminate myself. I take my food everywhere I go. I took my food to Hack Your Health. I'd cooked it, put it in my backpack, took it with me. I don't play around with eating other places. Now, I did eat at Dr. Kilt's dinner, which was cool because I was nervous to eat there, but I ate and everybody else sort of at the table got a little sick and I didn't get sick. So it was cool. But I used to have interstitial cystitis. I used to have chronic UTIs. I would have UTIs probably like 6 to 8 times a year. So I was on Cipro and all the side effects of that. And so I had skin issues. And I also would like swell up, just unexplained swelling in my legs. And so back in the day, I had binge eating disorder for like 33 years. And I didn't realize, but that is connected to your thyroid and your adrenals. And I had no idea until I hired a carnivore doctor to help me kind of navigate everything. And when we don't listen to our body and when we're under constant stress, we can damage those signals and cause, issues with weight gain and all the things. But a lot of the symptoms that I had have completely disappeared. So it's been amazing. I mean, I've had lots of acne and my skin's clear now. And I had like eczema that I would get on my like lower legs. And especially like if I eat turkey or chicken or pork, I will get like a rash on like a terrible eczema rash. And so I used to get it like all the time. Every year I would get it on my legs. And then once I did carnivore and I went through the detox portion, it came out and then it just went away. So if I eat some turkey or something, it'll come back.
So I imagine before with the IC that probably affected your sleep somewhat, which would have added to the problems, no?
Oh yeah, yeah. So, because IC really makes you feel like you have a UTI and you don't. And that is a very upsetting thing to have people believe that they have that for the rest of their lives. I mean, it was having UTIs every few months was exhausting and stressful, and then having all the problems that come with taking antibiotics. But when I was diagnosed with IC, and then I started going into Facebook groups and listening to people talk, and it was like hopeless. It was like, this is something, I mean, these people live with this every single day. And I was like, okay, that is not a thing. I mean, it's so natural to wake up and to feel normal and not have to run to the bathroom or have any of those chronic symptoms. And that was one of the very first things that left when I started carnivore.
So it's been almost 3 years now.
Hmm.
And you mentioned like basically you're eating burger patties and you're taking your electrolytes and that kind of thing. What is your eating pattern throughout the day? Like, do you have a set thing, or is it just when I'm hungry I eat?
So what I do just to kind of, because when you fast a lot and you're a woman and you're in midlife, you cause issues with your thyroid. So I don't really fast, and especially being a carnivore, I really don't need to fast because I have autophagy built in when I'm eating carnivore. So I actually have done two different patterns. One was just drinking some coffee with 3 tablespoons of butter and some salt and electrolytes in the morning, like around 8:45, and then I would eat lunch around 11:45 and then eat my dinner at probably around 4. And I have recently started something different where I eat egg yolks agree with me better than egg whites. So I do 2 egg yolks in the morning with some salt and butter with them. And that's like around 7. So within like an hour of waking, I'm just experimenting. And then I do my cup of coffee with 3 tablespoons of butter around 8:45. And then I'm still doing the 11:45 and the 3:45. Basically, I like to finish eating by about 4.
And has anyone around you kind of gone, "Oh, okay, this is working. This is good. You're losing weight. You're looking healthier. Maybe I'll give it a try."
I would say that most people think I'm crazy, and um, some people are interested. So I'm kind of like branded as like doing carnivores coaching, and I was very scared to do that because I was like, oh, I don't want to pin myself. And then I decided to do it. I apologize. I decided to do it, and then my dog is moving. I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
He is standing on all my papers. I apologize. I have some women in my networking group. One of them was like, because I stand up every Wednesday and talk about what I do. And she was like, maybe we should have coffee. And so we had coffee, and she was like, maybe I should hire you. And I was like, well, I'm going into the carnivore space. And she was like, sounds fun. So we're going to be working together soon. But overall, most of the people in my life, I had a really good friend try it for a little bit, but she was like, she couldn't sustain, but she didn't realize she could still eat pork and chicken and turkey and all the things. She was trying to stick with ribeyes every day. And so she just was like, I can't do that. And I was like, that's okay. I was like, you do you. I'm going to keep going. We'll see how it all works out for us.
I think a lot of the time, it can be very easy to kind of transition into carnivore and stick to it when you've got a lot of very strong reasons to do it,
Yeah.
like you had the allergies and that kind of thing. Whereas some people, if they're not experiencing particular a slew of health issues at any particular time, it's a lot easier to say, yeah, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah. I
Mm.
find that people tap out quickly when they don't have a good reason why. But for me, it was like, really, it was my life. It was me being stuck at home, feeling sick just all the time. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. Now, when I heard of carnivore, I thought I was kind of crazy. I was programmed to believe all the things low fat's good for you, all that junk. But now I'm like, oh, now I don't eat sticks of butter all day. Like some people can do that. I don't do that. But, like I eat what my body tells me it needs. But overall, I find that a lot of people are interested in it just for weight loss. They're not really interested in it for like healing health issues and really getting their health back. They don't they don't think that broadly. I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people don't think that broadly. And I will say I was in this personal training um, internship, and they had a fun time talking about carnivore and how bad it was for you. So I had to actually drop out after I graduated because I couldn't go any farther because they just had this whole issue with carnivore, and they just, I mean, they would pull it up and teach, like make fun of people in the carnivore space who had YouTubes and stuff. And I just was like, yeah, I can't stay. This was fun, but I can't stay because people just have this, especially I'm a personal trainer. So it's funny that personal trainers, and I'm gonna say a label for a moment. A lot of men in personal training will say that carnivore is like the dumbest thing ever, but they haven't tried it, and they're just very stuck to the carb, like cycle and needing to eat carbs for working out. And I haven't missed carbs a minute. And I actually talked to a practitioner recently about like deeply healing the thyroid and the adrenals, and she was like, you could eat carbs in the summer And you can do, carnivore in the winter because that makes sense. Carnivore does make sense in the winter because, your body, you don't have vegetables growing, you don't have fruits growing. If you're eating seasonally, you don't have that. And so she goes, I want for you to be able to eat, all the things. And, I said to her, she talked for a few minutes and I was like, yeah, I have no desire to eat vegetables. I tried an avocado a while back and it just didn't hit the spot. Like I loved avocados before I moved over to carnivore. And then I just kept thinking about it. And I kept thinking of Primal Kitchen, like mayonnaise and all that stuff. And then I tried the avocado and I was like, ugh, I don't miss that at all. I don't miss fruit. I did miss like gala apples for a minute. And then I tried one and it just wasn't, it just wasn't any good to me. And I was like, if I can keep it simple. So I actually had raw egg yolks tonight on my burger patty. And I found that that is the simplest thing you can do. Now, they're pasture raised eggs, but that is the simplest way. You don't have to cook them in the pan. You just toss them on your hot burger, put some butter on there and some salt and eat it. And it's delicious. And I was like, wow, I didn't even have to pull the pan out. Somebody suggested it to me and I thought, that sounds weird. And I was like, well, I'll try it. And yeah, just simple, delicious, amazing, simple. Did I say simple?
Yeah. I mean, I think that ends up being one of the better things about it, when I think about could I ever go back, one of the things that just is a huge roadblock to ever wanting to go back is that I just have to start working so much more in the kitchen, going to the shop to buy snacks, going to the shop to buy different, spending so much time in the supermarket. I'm just like, life just becomes a hassle.
It's so much work to have to, like worry about adding in carbs and cooking all that and having variety. That is a waste of time. I'm just going to be real. That's such a waste of time to want so much variety. I find that most people eat the same 8 foods on repeat and then they tell me I'm weird and that I'm restrictive. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just triggering them.
Yeah. I think, also when you look at the animal kingdom, and you compare us there, why are we the only species that needs to use food as entertainment?
Oh my gosh.
You
So
know,
true.
except, I mean, I always think we are, as far as eating is concerned, I always feel that we are most closely related to dogs simply because we eat the same way a dog eats. If it's in front of us, we'll go, oh, well, I need to eat it. You know? Oh, that's sweet. That's whatever. We don't really have a concern for what it's doing to our bodies. And at the end of the day, dogs get just as sick as we do if they continue eating that way.
It's so true. They get all the diseases we get, you know? It's like for me, I feed my dogs. It's kind of like a lab experiment. I've got like all kinds of things that I put in their food, natural things. And it's funny because I know people that have had to put their dogs down because they have diabetes so bad. It's like crazy, amputate their feet. It's like if we don't maintain, like, I don't put down grazing, like, I don't have bowls of food sitting everywhere for them to eat all day long. They get a bowl, they get it measured. There's like no like overfeeding. You watch your dog, they get fat very quickly when you overfeed them and then they start getting diseases. So I'm like, yeah, we don't do that. And I actually feed my animals at my house because my husband likes to give them a little extra. And then I'll be like, don't they? They're overweight. I mean, like, I'll just look at me like something's going on. So I've got them on a very strict regimen and I feed them. We have 2 cats and, like they get food at specific times and they get specific types of food. They don't get a bunch of junk and treats and all that kind of stuff. Like whatever you feed your body or your animals is going to determine their health. So if you're feeding them junk, they're going to be sick. If you're feeding them healthy food that is really nutrient dense, like red meat, they're going to be healthy. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I always think of the sign that's up at the lake that says, "Don't feed bread to the ducks." And it's like,
hmm
yeah, but it's okay for us to eat, is it? It's
The things that
um
are in bread, it's insane what they put in that stuff. It really is. I think people
yeah.
don't realize. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this stage, there's no going back for you.
Oh, no, no. I just, I don't miss it enough. Like when I went through the stress and I ate the protein bars and all that junk, it was just me trying to keep my head above water. But like once I watched myself get sick again. Like I watched myself completely gain like 25 pounds in 3 months, just heartbroken over just relationships and stuff. And then I realized, wait, I'm killing myself coping with the food that these people, weren't talking to me. And I was like, my husband looked at me and said, look, you were doing just fine before this happened. You need to go back to what you were doing and you need to take care of yourself and you need to do what work God's given you to do. So I just got really focused and just turned all of that off. It's very hard. Women can be emotional creatures and we can be very hurt by people and we can, people can say mean things. But at the end of the day, we have to decide what's best for us. We have to decide how we want to fuel our bodies. We have to decide how we're going to live. And if we give in to what everybody else thinks of us or what everybody else is saying about us and how we eat or whatever, then they don't care. These people don't care about what you do in real time. They just want to, just mess with you. And so I feel like women need to set some boundaries around themselves and decide, when I eat red meat, maybe it's going to upset some folks. When I cut out carbs, maybe it's going to make some folks, triggered. And you have to be willing to do that for yourself and not really care how they feel about you, cuz at night when you go to sleep, they're not thinking about it. So don't lose sleep over it. Just take care of yourself and figure out what's best for you, because I had to do that. I had to go through, like I never really ate lean meat ever, but I just had to figure out what was best for me. And I've been the weird one for years, because having a gluten allergy, you have to take your food places because you can't trust the people that are cooking. They're like, yeah, I'll cook this for you, honey. And then they're, touching bread and then touching your food. Yeah, we don't do that. So women just need to realize that red meat's good for you. Eating fat is good for you. It actually helps your brain work better. It helps all your female hormones work better. We're going on these low fat diets for years and then we're like, "Oh, my hormones are all over the place." Well, if you eat the fat, it actually helps you, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, well said. Um, so if you were giving advice to someone that was considering trying carnivore out, would you tell them to transition in slowly or just rip the band-aid off and jump in?
So my take on that is different because I was so sick, I just had to rip the band-aid off. Like I didn't have a lot of options. But for most women, I would say, look, I call them the four horsemen of illness, which is grains, seed oils, sugar, and processed foods. So I would transition off of one of those and then like just completely, cut that out of your diet and then not focus on all four at once, because the oxalate dumping, the transition of fuel sources can be a little bit of a jump. And I think that most people will quit if they have too many things going on and they just can't sustain it. But if they go slow, they can actually be able to feel not so much pain in the transition if they just go slow. So, some people just rip the band-aid off. I've met many of them. But I would say go slow and just, like add in one thing, which could be red meat, or could be walking. People think they have to go to the gym all the time and work out every single day and do all this cardio. And I'm like, you just need to chill out, do some walking and eat some red meat. Eat some fatty red meat.
Very nice. So Christina, can you talk a little bit about the coaching that you do and how people can find you?
Yeah. So I say that I'm your carnivore coach, your carnivore lifestyle coach. And so I help women in midlife who are dealing with a lot of health issues and just a lot of unexplained things. They've been to the doctor and the doctor's like, "Hey, your labs look good. We'll see you next year." And she's like, "Wait, what do you mean?" Or they're told to eat less and move more. That's not a prescription. So I help them to really decide what they want and figure out the path that's going to work for them. I'm kind of like the co-pilot or the passenger in the car with a map, and they're the driver. So they're the boss, and I'm just helping them to uncover what it is they really want. And I do single sessions, but I'm also doing 90-day programs with people. And I make it about them and whatever they need. And then I support them to get there. Of course, educating them on food, nutrition, movement, how important electrolytes and salts are, and, relationships. We talk about that kind of stuff too, but it's really about figuring out what they want and helping them get there so that they can live the rest of their life and be the person that takes care of themselves and has non-negotiables.
And so how can people reach out to you?
So I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is my.carnivore.lifestyle. I'm also starting a YouTube channel. It's not fully there yet, but they can also go to my website, which is carnivorelifestyle.com, and they can send me a message. And yeah.
Awesome. So I'll link to all of those in the show notes.
Okay.
Cristina, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and experience with us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for letting me come on. It's been great.